Yusuf Philip Yila. The youths who participated in the End SARS protest are very educated, most of them very intelligent, most of them, again, unemployed graduates and all that. Mr. Adekunle Johnson has told us, of course, the opportunities available for some of them who already have something doing. We know that before COVID-19, there were initiatives that the federal government, put in place for the youths. And when COVID-19 came, the stimulus plan also kicked out some of these initiatives. Can you unfold this baggage for us so that we can see the opportunities that have been, there, ab initio for the Nigerian youth?
Thank you very much. So I'll just start with those that were there before COVID struck and those that the Monetary Authority, now the central bank, put in place just to address the pandemic. So before the pandemic, we realized that, we had a large army of youths. 200 million people in the country, 70% of them are between the ages of 18 and 35. And they will form a huge workforce or contribute to the economy. So as a central bank, what Governor Emefiele did was to put in place first what you call an accelerated agricultural development program. We realized that state governments have quite a lot of land. And if you recall, about 2-3 months ago, President Muhammadu Buhari came out and said, look, our youths, before the end SARS, our youths need to go into agriculture. And it was for one thing, because he had seen the data set. I'll give you an example. We have a program where we give you inputs. You all know about anchor borrowers, typical rice. You get 1 hectare of rice. We provide you all the seeds, the fertilizer, and the inputs. And, that loan is given to you. We don't give you cash, but all the materials in kind at about 271,000. At the end of the 3 to 4 month farming cycle, you sell the paddy rice that you've gotten at almost 700,000 naira to an off-taker, guaranteed off-take. So you're making totally a margin in excess of, you're doubling. So the president must have seen that as an opportunity for our youths, because we have a huge landscape. So every state government has an opportunity to come and access that accelerated agricultural development program. Our target we had set was for 370,000 youths across the country. We also realized that...
To be driven by the state?
Yes, by the state governments in partnership with the central bank. So we've disbursed to so many states. You will have seen Ogun State with some youths, thousands of youths that cultivated rice, and they started harvesting some weeks ago. We also realized that our youths in Nigeria are very creative. You mentioned about the NSAS, and they've been very intelligent. You see them in music, in movie, in the IT space. What we also did as a central bank is to create 2 products. One is called AXMIS. We realized that also a lot of them are, from poor backgrounds. They don't have collateral. Either their parents do not have houses. And what we did was we worked with the Bankers Committee.
Sorry, hit the names of those initiatives properly so that we can...
So I talked about the Accelerated Agricultural Development Scheme. Well, that's in partnership with the state governments to bring youths into agriculture. I talked about the AXMIS, which I'm talking about. AXMIS, which is Agri Small Business Investment Scheme. What happens is that every deposit money bank contributes 5% of its profit every year into a pool of funds, which is kept in the central bank and then is used to fund this program. This program is really for small businesses and youths who want to either go into poultry, want to go into carpentry, fashion, a whole lot of businesses. You don't need any collateral. All you need to do is go to the National Microfinance Bank. And there's a sense in creating the National Microfinance Bank because we know that our youths are spread all across the country. So working with NIPOST, what the Bankers Committee did was to use some part of NIPOST to create the National Microfinance Bank. And they have over 120 branches now. The end result is to have 774 branches. So you go there, you fill a form online, and then you can access as much as 10 million naira without any collateral. So you want to go into either yogurt making, you want to go into things like cattle fattening, poultry, you access this 10 million over a 5 to 6 year period, and we'll give you a moratorium of 1 year. So that's another signature program and one of the most successful programs of the Governor Emefiele's tenure in the central bank. We also have what you call the Creative Industry Finance Initiative. You mentioned our youths being very smart. So things like IT, things like fashion, things you want to do in movie, you want to do in music, you can go to either the National Microfinance Bank or any deposit money bank and access funds to be able to do that. So that's another very important program. What we also realized is that a lot of our youths might not be, you talked about being educated, might not have gone into formal education, but they have the skills, coding skills like IT. You don't need to have a degree. So after we started the program, we relaxed. The governor said, look, coding is something you might have read even English, but if it's something you really are in tune with, you can do. So reduce the requirements, and we've seen quite a lot of people who are not even IT based have been very, very successful with coding. That's another signature program called the Sci-Fi. Also, the anchor borrowers is something a lot of our youth have the opportunity to access. Rice, I earlier talked about. Today, national consumption is about 7 million metric tons. We produce about 5.5. There's a gap. There's significant land available. This week, the central bank approved a new guideline for land clearing to be able to unlock land. We realized that it's cheaper to clear land in the north than in the south. There's quite a lot of forest. So we want to unlock land so that our youths, just like the president had mentioned some months ago, can get into agriculture. As we speak, there's no poor, you don't hear about poor people in agriculture any longer because they're making quite a lot of money. It's easy. You don't have to be skilled that much. You don't need to have a degree. You can easily go into it, get the inputs. Another thing we're doing is the MSMEDF fund. We set aside 220 billion. Youths are able to access 60-65% of the fund. What we plan to do is to ensure that you go to a vocational center, because it's one thing to be able to give somebody fish, but it's more important, and that's what my boss keeps, reminding me, that the youth should not be just given fish, but they should be taught how to fish. So entrepreneurial activity, very important. They go to a vocational center. We have 6 of them across the country to learn things like tiling, things like plumbing. I mean, it's sad today that over 65-70%, even in Abuja, of those who tile, truth be told, are people from neighboring countries. We have 70% of our people between 18 and 35 who are able-bodied, who learn this, and with a huge construction activity that is going on, can embark on it. So that's some of the programs. In total, we've disbursed over 248 billion, of which youths have accessed, between the ages of 18 and 35, have accessed over 212 billion. So it shows you that there's been significant attention by the Central Bank of Nigeria to youths. I mentioned one of our significant programs being the AXMIS. There's so many testimonials of people who are into fashion, people who are into block making. I saw a testimonial last week of somebody who used to drive a taxi in Abuja who is employing about 6 people now. He's into block making. We gave him 7.5 million, and we gave him last year. He's already paid 2 million back. So there's quite a bouquet of opportunities for our youths. You don't need to know anybody. You don't need any collateral. You just need to walk into the National Microfinance Bank, apply online, and you'll get access to the funds.
Access to information and awareness and trust and confidence that, look, a potential beneficiary can step up to your process and procedure without knowing XYZ, and then get the grant or become truly a beneficiary.
Okay. I mean, if you look at, because we're talking about youths, 18 years to 35, most of them are on social media. And you will see the testimonials. Before we went to the lady in Ibadan, I was talking about interventions were done pre-COVID. Post-COVID, I'll give you an example, and to address your point. We realized that we do not want, as a monetary authority, as a central bank, we do not want people to lose jobs. We knew some people were definitely going to lose jobs, and some businesses were going to struggle, maybe due to supply chain issues. They couldn't import because borders were closed. So we rolled out what you call a targeted credit facility, which is really a short-term loan for those who've lost their jobs or businesses that are struggling, can't pay salaries. And we started initially with 50 billion. As we speak today, we've disbursed 100 billion, and the governor has increased it to 150 billion to over 150,000 people across the country. What we've done is that on the National Microfinance Bank website, we've put all the names of those who've benefited. So you have somebody who's lost his job, he has a family of 4 or 5, he can access up to 1 million naira, 1.5 million naira to be able to give him that short-term headroom to be able to, take care of his family. So I agree with you that communication has been an issue. I used to be the managing director of the National Microfinance Bank before I came back to the central bank. And one of the things we did was to work with the faith-based organizations, community leaders. I earlier talked about the National Microfinance Bank extending its reach. Because if you look at the deposit money banks, the big banks, they don't speak the language of, the SMEs and the youths. They mostly deal with the big corporates. So you're going to have a National Microfinance Bank in each of the local government areas in this country, 774. You can walk in there. So there has to be that element of trust, which you're talking about, that, look, how can I access this? Is there a guarantee that I'll be able to get it? And I can assure you that those 150,000 people that we've disbursed the odd 100 billion to, their names are on the website. If you look at social media activity, a lot of the youths go for their information. A lot of them are saying, wow, this thing works. I applied, I've gotten my credit. And we'll continue to use all the channels available. There's a media strategy around all the programs that we do. NTA, of course, I'm here. NTA has, one of the largest reach, if not the largest reach in the country. So there's trust in the programs. There's, like I said, 70% of the population youth. It might not be enough, but we gradually are calibrating it. Targeted credit, we started at 50. We've done 100. Now it's been increased to 150 billion. There are testimonials of people who have collected this money. I earlier talked about the cab driver who went into block industry, fashion, some people that can't even, all over the country. A good place for information around the central bank intervention programs typically is our website. So we have a whole list of bouquet of intervention products. And in fact, the testimonials on the National Microfinance, both their Twitter and their website, and we're beginning to run documentaries on TV to show and encourage people that indeed, I really don't need to know anybody. I remember when I mentioned that you don't know anybody and you can get, you had a smile on your face, that you can take up to 10 million naira uncollateralized. And within a 4 to 6 week cycle between when you apply and when the disbursement is made.
I'm sorry to interject, Yila, and Adekunle Johnson, my colleague Claire. Yeah. On Good Morning Nigeria, we have focused on SIPs in the past. Yeah. That's the social intervention programs of the administration. And we've had some young persons who were beneficiaries of either the NPower or NHealth schemes that were run. And they gave their success stories. Some of them even displayed what they had done. But it appears that what you are dealing with, I'm sure you can even borrow from what transpired in terms of the risk communication with regard to COVID-19. Yeah. The officials are speaking at one level, but behavior at another level is different. I'm sure. You said, look, wear a mask. I'm sure you carry a mask. I still carry a mask. Yeah. But the majority of persons in the suburban locations, what were they doing? So is the effectiveness of your communication, how strategic are you? I don't mean to be disrespectful. One of the easiest things that you can do with communication is to put out an advert. But the impact of that advert is a different ball game.
Absolutely.
When you know you are effective, ask yourself this question. Is this an everyday conversation amongst young persons? Why are they still grumbling about lack of opportunities, about missed opportunities, about non-availability of life-sustaining measures?
Kingsley,
I'm familiar with the clinics, and I think, Claire, there have been reports on whenever the vice president takes off with all of this. Once again, Yila Yusuf, you may wish to elaborate on this. Well, we've talked about effective communication. Let's not overflog it. I'm sure you recognize the importance of that. But other than just reeling out numbers, excuse me, and figures, so 248 billion disbursed by the CBN, another 100 billion, now raised to 150 billion. How many human beings have been impacted by this? And of course, you are in the financial services sector. What has been the knock-on effect? Yes, we're told somebody now employs 6 persons. What are the life-changing experiences of these persons? Are you with me? That way, I mean, if I were a youth, I wouldn't be competing with my children now. But if I were you, I would say, look, there's an opportunity there. And that opportunity means that I don't have to know you, Yila Yuso, before I come. I've never had to know any person before I got a job. Yeah. So what do we have at this time, and how can we smoothen it over? And what hopeful message can you give to our some of our young viewers who are watching right now?
Thank you very much. I'll start, and I agree with you that the communication needs to be strategic. And it is only when the communication is strategic you can build trust on the programs, and people can begin to say, wow, this is real, you know, I can get it. Like I said earlier, I don't need to know anybody. But indeed, there have been huge success stories. So the easiest part is disbursing the money as a central bank. But the KPI for my team as a development finance team in the central bank is the impact on the economy. You know, how has that money that has been disbursed contributed to national development? Huge pots. The AXMIS I talked about earlier on, 5%. Every deposit money bank, you know, contributes 5%. It's a huge fund that is just lying down in the central bank. And as we speak, only close to about 20,000 people. So the opportunities are there for our huge population, over 100 million youths that are available, you know, to take this fund. So strategic communication is an issue. Is something I'll take back. We'll continue to work on much better. But indeed, there's hope. The targeted credit facility, like I said earlier on, that we've done over 100 billion. If you look at our last GDP numbers post-pandemic, yes, we grew negative 6%, but it could have been worse. We tried as much as possible to disburse this money as fast as possible to be able to fuel consumption. You know, the only way you can reflate and bring back the economy is when you get activities moving. And it is only when people have these monies in their hands, small businesses, households, they can go and buy, you know, trying to stimulate a demand. But indeed, there's been very successful stories across the country. But it also starts, like you mentioned, strategic communication. Where I come from, the Northeast, if you use the example for the targeted credit facility, which we've done 101 billion today, the least disbursed region of the country is the Northeast. For you to be able to take any of our intervention schemes, you need what you call your bank verification number, because that's the unique identity that we'll use to be able to identify you and track you. In the Northeast, as we speak, where I come from, not a lot of the youths, you know, have BVN numbers. So that strategic communication starts from, how do we get you to get onto the BVN platform so you have access to financial services? And then how do you know that these are the bouquet of products that are available and this is the right one for me? You know, I mentioned earlier that the governor keeps saying, look, it's not just giving you fish, but, you know, how do we teach you to fish? So strategic communications will continue to, you know, work on it, trying to get more people into the bouquet of products and constantly target the right message at the right segment of society. But indeed, of these 6 to 8 products I've talked about this morning, there has been huge impact, there's been huge success stories. I'll give you an example, Anchor Borrower Program. Without the Anchor Borrower Program, I wonder where Nigeria will be today post the pandemic. Countries that we used to import rice from, the Vietnams, the Thailands, after COVID, everybody shut his silo and said, you know, we don't know how long this pandemic, there's a second wave that is coming. You know, I'm going to keep my silos because I don't know how long this is going to take. But because of what the president, that 2015 program, Anchor Borrowers, we started, brought in a lot of young people to start farming. We're now self-sufficient in rice. And I started the program by saying, look, when the president came out and said, look, youths come into agriculture, he was sending a message. I give you an example of rice, how profitable it is. The central bank, working with the various associations, you know, the rice, the maize, gives you inputs. And I keep saying you do not need to know anybody. Gives you inputs, gives you fertilizer, seeds. States are in control of, they have a lot of land. You plant it and you double, without collecting cash. And then, there's an off-taker and they give you enough money for you to be able to, for your labor. So indeed, there's an impact on the economy. And the most important KPI for us, like I said earlier on, is not just disbursing the money, but how has it affected your lives? How many people have been brought into the employment net? That huge 70% of the 200 million people that we're talking about, how many of them have been brought into the net? How productive they are? How can we improve their business? Two young Nigerians sold their business for $200 million some weeks ago. Technology, creativity, which you earlier mentioned, is something that we are known for, Nigerians. Our music industry, our fashion, our movie, the opportunities are there. But I agree with you that the strategic communications needs to be better and it needs to be guided properly.
Just before, we have some tweets, but just before we quickly take them, on the anchor borrowers scheme, I understand to access it, you have to belong to a body of, farmers or something.
Yes, yeah.
Now, how, with regards to access to land, how does a youth of about between the ages of 18 and 35 access land?
Okay, so there are two ways youths can access land. Like I mentioned earlier, we work with the state governments on the Accelerated Agricultural Development Program. So a youth between 18 and 35 can go to any of the associations. For rice, you have the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria. For maize, you have the Maize Farmers Association of Nigeria. You go to them, you fill a form, you tell them where your location is. We've been partnering as a central bank with the various states to unlock land, so 10,000 hectares, 20,000 hectares. The state government makes it available. The association now goes and takes these youths, as part, allocates them, the various parcels of land. Typically, we do 1 hectare to be able to manage the farming practice. So you farm. At the end of the farming season, you take the outputs. So if it's rice, it's paddy rice. The association will collect the value of the loan, typically maybe 217,000 naira of the value of the paddy will take. Then the remaining one, so you have 2 options. You can convert it into cash immediately, or you can keep the paddy and sell later if you want to take advantage of the market. That is a huge opportunity. So talking about strategic communication, we on our website, we would, we have the various associations and the guidelines for the program. Another very important one to rehash is the AXMIS, which you do as a sole business or as an individual. For example, you want to do a poultry. So you come to us, we train you before then so you understand bookkeeping. So we don't just give you money, we throw money at you and you misuse it. And since it's a loan, you have to pay back. So you come to the National Microfinance Bank, you apply, they look at the application and you say, oh, I want 10 million. They tell you no. It's better you start with 1,000 beds. 5,000 is quite risky. So they might cut it down to 5 million. They provide you the cages, and every single thing you need. And then, you start the poultry, and then for 1 year moratorium, you begin to repay back. Very cheap. Interest rates are 5%. One of the things that the central bank also did after COVID is to say, look, interest rates were at 9% for intervention products. Let's bring it down to 5% to really ameliorate the situation, because demand has been very, very low. So youths between 18 and 35, there's a bouquet of products. Go to the central bank website to see it, or the National Microfinance Bank website. You see the products are available. And then indeed, if you apply, very important, if you apply and you've not heard anything, you can always, Central Bank has what you call a consumer protection framework. Just email cpd@cbn.gov.ng with your complaint, and then it will be addressed.
Hila Yusuf,
Yes,
you've been referring to a website, email.
Yeah.
The last address, that's what I was coming to. I know that you've underscored the importance of strategic communication, but let's also just be careful. If 70%, as you say, I'm not quite sure what the percentage is of our population is young. Let's say they are the youth. How many of these persons have education that will enable them access your website, access your email address, or send messages and so on and so forth. So that's part, you see where the communication thing is coming from. There's a lot of emphasis. You know, you have gone, I know that it's e-governance, but we also have to understand our local environment and how to effectively reach these other segments of the population that may not be able to follow through with what you are saying. At age 18, for instance, you've talked about 18 to 35. I know that that's the usual age group for the youth. You should be in school. Rather than thinking of uncle, unless you want to do it as a vacation job.
And you see, I mentioned, so that's just one element. So the different channels in strategic communications. I mentioned that the reason why the Bankers Committee and the Central Bank created the National Microfinance Bank is because of, one, this access to data and information, awareness, reach, and because there's a post office, we looked at it and we said, look, what is the easiest way to be able to reach our people? In each local government in the country, there's a post office. You can easily go there, and the idea is that, look, create the National Microfinance Bank in each post office. Even if you don't have a smartphone, you don't have access to a website, you can get in there. There are people who will listen to you, will tell you exactly the products are available, how to apply for them, and then, once you apply, even if you don't have any of the tools, the channels to do, you can do a paper-based application. I also mentioned that we're using faith-based organization and also community leaders. So we just really need to communicate better, put the strategic plan available for everybody to be able to understand exactly this is the product, and then use the different channels.
Yila and Adekunle Johnson. Gentlemen, you talked about all of this, but monitoring, evaluation, and control, very important. You can use faith-based organizations, but if you sit through their sermons or you sit through their services to hear what is going on, at what point are these schemes being mentioned, or it is demand for offering a tithe that you hear mostly when you haven't earned something. But gentlemen, it's a very interesting conversation. We're trying to make it as light as possible so that the young ones can follow us. I want to go back, Tola. We have some tweets. Okay. They're speaking to some of the aspects of what our guests are already talking about, and I think they may have some posers as well as further clarification. Jones Ferrari, kudos to the president. Truly, no government in the past has done this before in the history of Nigeria. I urge all the youth to make use of the vast opportunities available.
Case, I think we have just time for just one more. You can take that one more, and then Tola can just...
All right. We have this one. Say the intervention of the federal government is commendable, but most times those programs don't get to the intended beneficiaries. So proper monitoring and evaluation is sacrosanct. That's Utulo Sunday.
Okay. Tola.
And then Nandon Buyeb, he said the youth, invest in them, keep them interested and creatively involved in life.
Yes, in less than a minute.
Okay, so thank you very much. That was a very good feedback. So what we will do is that we will reach out to those that are supposed to be responsible to picking up those calls and see why they are not picking up, and then we'll see what has gone wrong. But it's very good that she has brought that up. And with the shared facility, we'll check with the state and to see with our people what is happening there. The thing is there, but no one is meant to pay any ridiculous amount for it. But in trying to round up, let me just let Nigerians know that every aspect of the survival fund is a grant, and at no point are you required to pay anybody 1 penny. At no point.
Good.
So it is very clear for people to understand that.
Shared facility for shared butter production. Do you have any in Niger State?
No, not yet.
Fine. Please go there. I know that they produce a lot of shea butter in Niger, and women are heavily involved in that. Gentlemen, and Adejoke Lasise, we deeply appreciate your being with us on the program today. Of course, Yila Yusuf, a director from the Central Bank, and Tola Adekunle Johnson, of course, from the Vice President's office, where he's project coordinator of the MSME Survival Fund. So,
All
Claire?
right. Yes, Kingsley. Honestly, I think we need to do a part 2 of this. It's been quite interesting. But I would like to appreciate you once again, all of you, for joining us for another edition this Friday. It's the end of the working week. We'll be back same time next week. I am Claire Adelabu.
It's not same time next week. We are back on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Claire is already having a week off, and that's why she's getting a bit excited. I hope she's not. I'm Kingsley Osadola. Enjoy your weekend.